Namaste.
Thank you for tuning into our new episode, new series. मैले चाहिँ 12वटा एपिसोड यता सर्भाइभ राइज एन्ड थ्राइभ सिरिजमा गरिसकेँ भने नाउ आम गोइङ टु अ डिफ्रेन्ट सिरिज. This series is all about second generation. I haven't named it yet, but it's a second generation pod for me. And for that, we have our first guest, episode 1 of second generation pod, and her name is Prishni Lamichhane. Before going to her, I just want to explain about the things that I want to. The objective of this series is to, there are lots of Nepalese Canadian second generations, right? So over the years, over the discussion I had, they had really nice insight, and they learn a lot from our culture, the existing culture here in Canada. So I just want to bring out those aspects of the fusion of Nepal and Canada, so that we have a fun talking about it, right? So the first guest is Prishni Lamichhane. I'm here at her home, and this home is amazing. The setup is amazing. That's because she's an event planner. The episode name I have named as From Code to Confetti. Prishni Lamichhane's leap from engineering to events. So talking about Prishni, first of all, welcome to my podcast.
Thank you.
All right. So you are an event entrepreneur. You are one of Party Girls and Plantastic events, and also you were a former software engineer, right?
Yes.
There are a lot of fusions in your life. So I want you to introduce yourself as Prishni. You can introduce in any fashion you want.
Hi everyone. So my name is Prishni. I moved to Canada when I was 11. Straight out of high school, I actually went into software engineering because I thought that would be the path I wanted to take. But after going through the program and graduating, I realized that that's not really what was for me. There were a lot of other programs that I toyed with the idea of. I thought about teaching, social work, accounting, but nothing really stuck out. And it was actually my mom who said, why don't you try event planning? It's only a 2-year program. See what it's like. There's no harm in doing it. And after doing it, within the first week of working for Party Girls, before I owned it and starting school, I knew that that's what it was, and I fell in love with the industry.
Oh, that's great. So to just to break the ice, can you tell me about the most unexpected thing that's ever happened at one of your events so far?
Yeah, I think what comes to mind is actually my first event as the owner of Party Girls. We did a big mortgage broker gala in Niagara Falls, and unexpectedly, 3 hours before the event, they told us that they wanted 350 chair covers for the event, which was a very difficult situation to handle because there was only 3 of us on site setting up, and on top of that, it was already a Saturday, so most event rental places were closed. So we were running around setting up while calling 8 different companies, and finally we got one that had these chair covers, but no one would deliver, so we had to get someone from the team to go bring it and then put all these chair covers in time. In the end, it all worked out, but it was a good learning experience to ask beforehand if there's anything that they're unsure of that they might spring on the day of, because they had kind of thought about the chair covers but thought it would be fine, so it would have been good to know if it was something that they told us beforehand.
Oh, yeah, that was a good run then, right?
Yeah.
The hustle is for you. Okay, that's great. I have one question. So let's go back to the engineering. I mean, the software industry, right? It might be a little bit harsh, but was your engineering ever truly a dream, or was it a dream you inherited?
I think it was a mix of both. It was definitely partially my dream. All through high school, I loved math and science, and I hated English and writing, so I was just looking for a career that wouldn't make me write essays and would let me use my math and science skills. So in that sense, engineering just seemed like the perfect fit. But I think where that comes from was never the external pressure, but I think it was the internal pressure of going into a stable career and knowing that half my family is a family of engineers. It just seemed like the perfect fit to go there and also become an engineer, because it was that stable career that you could just go into and get a job right away. But I don't think it was the external pressure, but I think it was just a combination of it was what I wanted to do, and it was just what I thought made the most sense at the time.
Oh, I think you have a aha moment in between, I guess.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that. What's that one moment, you know, like in your business journey, that made you question everything, right? Like you said, there was some moment that triggered you to do something, what you had been doing, right? Something extra. So what inspired you to start this company, or what was the triggering moment, if you can remember?
I think for me, the moment that I knew that events was what I wanted to do was actually when I first met with the owner of the old the old owner of Party Girls, Emily, and we had met at a Starbucks, and she was kind of just telling me what it is she did, and she was like, "Why don't you come try it out and see if you like it?" And I think it was that day when I went, and it wasn't anything like super exciting. All we did was blow up balloons and like set them up against an arch, but in that moment it was seeing the end result of how pretty things can look, and like having that interaction with the clients and seeing that they enjoyed it, that made me realize this is so much more exciting than sitting at my laptop and staring at code all day. Like there is so much more happiness to just like doing work that you love versus being trapped in a room and just looking at your laptop all day.
All right, that's a perspective. That's great. You like to be in social events. You want to interact with people. You are an introvert, not a introvert person. You're an extrovert person, right? That sums up everything, right? Um, in our last conversation, you said that I hate being bored, right? Can what are you really afraid of when you say like things are getting quiet or I'm getting bored? So what are you really afraid of that night?
I don't really think it's anything I'm afraid of. I do hate being bored, but I think what it comes from is I always push myself to keep growing, like whether it be in my career or just learning new things. So I think like having that determination and the push to do something, it's just a feeling of if I'm procrastinating or not doing enough, I think it's an internal pressure to do more and feeling like I'm letting myself down if I'm not doing anything. So I don't think it's like I'm doing stuff because I'm afraid of the quiet. It's more I'm doing things because I want to see myself grow and like push myself ahead in my career.
Okay, that's the abundant mindset for sure, right? Okay, that's great. The debate of the decade, right? You should go for a degree and then go for the job, right? Most of the Canadian I know haven't done their degree, right? So they are into the high school and they go their way, right? I want to know from your end, like you had done the wedding planning thing, right? From the FANSA college. How did that certification, or let's say PG degree or something, help you in your business so far?
I think it gave me the confidence that I needed. Especially after doing software engineering and going into Fanshawe, it just felt like it was an easier program, and I was confident in my writing skills and like just all of like the transferable skills from doing the 4 years of school at Western made the Fanshawe program easier. But the actual content that we were learning, so whether it be hearing about the experience of different industry professionals or just like getting the content from the different classes really helped. But I think what truly helped with the Fanshawe program was the connections that I was able to make. So I think with my entire journey in event planning, the biggest thing has been networking. So I wouldn't say it's particularly the education that I got from Fanshawe that got me to where I was, but I would say it's Fanshawe having that co-op program that allowed me to meet the people I met, and from there I was able to secure all these different jobs that I've had in the industry and make the connections.
All right, so we have a word called satsang in Hindi, right? So that means like the like-minded people coming together and the network that you do there, right? It brings sanity in your thoughts, and it gives you focus on what you want to do, right? Okay, so that makes sense. The network obviously is a net worth right now. Let's talk about the event planning industry, right? From what I see, you solve all the clients, right? It's just not Nepali focus for sure. You're into different market as well. What are some of the biggest challenges that you face in this event industry, planning industry?
I think being new to the industry, I've only been doing it for a couple of years. I would say for someone starting out, it's getting into the industry that's difficult. A lot of event planning is about the people that you know. It's not really an industry where, like, say you're selling something, you just market your product, like it looks exciting, people buy it. Whereas for events, it's a lot of trust that people are putting onto you. Like, for example, for your wedding, it's your biggest day. They're not just going to let anyone and everyone do their wedding. But having that word of mouth really helps. So I think it goes back to that networking and having those connections. Like for me, when I bought Party Girls, for example, it's a business that's been in London for about 10 years now. So it has that name, it has the reputation.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say that's the biggest thing, is having the reputation makes it easy, where I can build off that reputation and market based on the events that we've done in the past to then gain more clientele.
Yeah, I think so. Talking about the business, right? I think branding is very much necessary, right? What do you like? What do you stand for, right? That is very important to send a message to the prospect, or even non-prospect, right? Because you are your business, and obviously you should have a brand. So, what kind of brand are you trying to build with this company?
I think the two are very separate. I think Plantastic is very focused on weddings. With Plantastic, I want it to be just wedding planning, wedding coordination, and wedding decor rentals, whereas Party Girls covers everything else. So with Party Girls, we do the birthdays, the bridal showers, but also that's the one where we do the corporate events, the non-for-profits like handbags for hospice and any other fundraisers. I think in terms of branding, like there is the general like consistent logos, consistent coloring, but I think the biggest thing for me is having that reputation of bringing the vision to life. Like my biggest thing is creating the mock-ups, having those conversations with the clients so they know that I truly understand what they're looking for and we're able to execute that, because a logo can only go so far, but it's the impact that you have by actually executing the event the way that they want it.
Okay, so let's say let's run a simulator here. Okay, my daughter is 90 days old now. I want to do, after 1 month, I want to do a party for my girl, right? Like we have a rice ceremony. So just explain me the process step by step. How would you go about it when you get a request from me, let's say?
So usually the way it goes is if we get a request via, usually it'll either come from the website, Instagram, or it'll just be an email inquiry. If it's a simple setup, like they're like, I want a balloon garland, then it's usually email conversation back and forth of what colors do you want, what is the theme, and we go from there. But if it is something specific, like a rice feeding ceremony, for example, I did one of those last year, but I think that would be an event where a bigger conversation is required. So from that, we would usually set up a consultation call where I understand what exactly are you looking for. So this would include things like, where do you want to have this event? What's the theme? Like, is there specific decor you have in mind? Are you wanting help with actually planning the event? So sourcing the venue, the caterers and whatnot. And then the major details, like when do you want this event? Where do you want this event? What is the budget? And then from there, based on your answers, what would happen is I would essentially create a proposal and a mock-up of, this is how much it would cost, these are the things that I could offer, and this is the general idea of what it would look like. And then from there, we would go back and forth to finalize the final details.
Okay, so there is a quotation process in place, and then you go back and forth on that.
Yeah.
Do you take care of, let's say I don't know anyone in London, right? I have no resources to find out where I can do it. So do you take care of all those aspects as well as a service, or like, do you do only one module? Okay, you just have to prepare an event for me. I know the place, I know the thing. So how does the subscription model or the pricing thing works out for you in that?
Yeah,
case?
so there's generally 3 tiers for events. So there's full service planning, which would basically be, you say this is the event I'm looking for, and you hand it all over to us. So we would do everything for you. So we would source the venues, we would source all the vendors, we would do all of your bookings. In that case, all you would do is essentially sign the contract with all of these different vendors and pay the invoice, but everything else, like I would do all the sourcing for you based on your requirements. The second one would be partial planning help, which is, for example, say you already have a venue and a photographer, but you need help with finding catering and decor. So in that case, like we would pick and choose. Usually that we would do it on like an hourly basis of, depending on the number of hours I put into it, would be how you're charged. And then the last one, which is more common for weddings, would be the day of coordination, which is essentially a month before your wedding. We'll sit down, we'll go over all the final details for your wedding. And on the day of, I would be on site, whether it's just me or me and my team, and we would just make sure that all the vendors are doing what they need to be doing, and the timeline of the day is being followed as to what you had planned, and just making sure that everything is in place and going exactly the way you want it to.
Okay, so the most budget-friendly one is the third one that you said?
Yeah, the most budget-friendly option, the most budget-friendly option would be the day of coordination, but that's very wedding specific. I would say like most events, like birthdays, don't need a day of coordination, like coordinator. In that case, it would be the partial planning. That would be the option that I would recommend, just so that we're not wasting time like wasting their resources or my time to have a day of coordinator, because if it's just a birthday, there's no point in me being there all day to watch.
I'm sure there will be a lot of the breakdown of the things that you have to explain to the client, right? Because in the service industry, I'm also in the service industry. In the service industry, you need to explain to the customer that you are getting this, like a full detail of a breakdown, right? Whereas in the product, it's like, okay, you are getting this, and then you're done. Like you just take a subscription model in that, right? But the service, it's very demanding, and with that, you need a team. You cannot do it all alone, right? So how many people are there working with you in this, and how are you, coordinating with each other?
So in terms of back end, like all the admin stuff is usually me. Like I handle all the quoting, the invoices, the email communication back and forth. If we have coordination, it's usually me or one other person that'll handle the coordination. But through this experience, what I've learned is that I need to be able to rely on people. So when we first started off, I was under a lot of stress when I would have my team setting up an event without me. That's all I'd be thinking about. I was like, can they do it? Do they know? Do they truly understand? But I think now we've gone to a point with the core team that I can be at a wedding, I could be coordinating the wedding, and they're setting up all the decor for the event, and I have full trust that they're able to do it. I don't have to think about it. I don't have to really worry about it. I know that they understand the vision and they know how to do it, that they can just like do it, and I don't have to worry about it, knowing that it'll be done exactly the way I want it to be done.
Okay, so what was the count? I forgot.
Of the people, usually, like generally, depending on the event, there's usually always 2 of us, like for smaller setups, and then for weddings, it's up to 5.
The ad hoc, right?
Yeah.
Those are ad hocs. Okay, and that makes sense. Yeah, true. So I'm also doing a business like for a long time now. I still remember my first client, right? It's an icebreaker for you, right? It's so hard to get one client as opposed to 10 clients after that, right? Because the first client is the one that you have to do the most selling page, sales pitching, everything, right? So can you walk us through, like, one thing is already that you have advantage of a brand, like you said, right? From the Plantastic, but how did you get the first clients once you take over the ownership thing, right? How was the process?
So the 2 stories are very different. I can go over both.
Okay.
For Plantastic, for the first wedding, I officially did through Plantastic. I actually got that client through my old workplace. So when I worked at Sunningdale Golf and Country Club, they had actually, the couple had gone to the golf course to potentially use that as their venue. And the event coordinator there had given them my information. And from there, we actually, that's how she reached out to me, and to this day, it's my favorite wedding that I've ever done. It was little pops of pink with green and white like flowers, and everything about it was so pretty, so elegant, and they basically trusted me with the entire vision. They said, take it, roll with it, do whatever you need to as long as it's pretty. And it was just everything pink and super pretty. Whereas for Party Girls, the transition for that one was pretty easy because I was working with Party Girls. A lot of the clients that we were working with, I had been with Emily to the setup. So either I had helped her set up, done the back work for those setups, so these clients knew me. Like, for example, one of the biggest ones I did after taking over Party Girls was handbags for hospice. That just happened a couple of weeks ago. And that one I had helped her with last year. So when they reached out to Emily, I had taken over the business, so I just emailed back saying, hey, I'm Prishni, I'm the new owner, we actually worked with you last year. If you're needing help, like, I can come out. And we did the site visit, and they were like, yeah, like, totally trust your vision, totally trust your judgment, we'll work with you again.
Yeah, that bridge works well because you have already worked with them, the client
exactly
know your face.
Yeah, so
right?
I wasn't like a random person taking over the business. They knew me, like I had been with her for 3 years.
Yeah, so talking about the business again, the sales part is again a different ballgame, I guess, I feel, right? It's not the service, it's the sales, right? So what are top 3 lessons that you learn as a owner of the company in the sales aspect? Like, what are the new, things for you that you learn every day in the sales world?
For me, I think the biggest things that I kind of knew but also really focus on in terms of selling is customer service. I find that if I reach out to a company and they take 4 days to get back to me, I've lost interest. Like, I don't care. So I usually, like, as soon as I get an email, whether it's I see it, my dad sees it, like, we are very quick to reply to all of these inquiries. I've gotten feedback from clients saying that was the quickest call I've received, which gives them the peace of mind that this is like a reputable company to work with. Like they're quick, they're on their game, like they will book, like they're more likely to book that way. Another one I would say is just in terms of like marketing and getting those sales and like leads. I would say for us, because it's such a like events is such a pretty business, like it's all about things looking pretty. Instagram really helps. It's getting those videos, reels, posts out. People look at it and they're like, I want exactly this, so they reach out. And then the final one would just be being able to talk to people. I think having the confidence in what you do is really important, because if you're unsure of what you're doing, people can really see through you. So if you can confidently tell people like, I can execute your vision, they're more likely to book with you than if you're like, like I'm not really sure, but I'll try my best. And if you don't have that confidence, like they will see right through you. It's that's the biggest thing.
They smell it actually.
Yeah.
Right? The clients smell it. Also, I think you brought up a very good point. Like you talk about the fastness, that is the time aspect, and then the game of aspiration, like looking into the things, and then okay, I want exact thing, right? And the game of confidence. I think for any salesperson, these three are the top qualities. I also believe that. So moving on to the next session, I think this is the most exciting session for me, because the root of all this second gen pod is the culture connection, right? Going back to the roots again. And how do you view your how do you view the Nepal and Canada here, right? So let's go to that session. How has second generation, technically not a second generation because you moved here and like 10 years in the 10 years old, right? So how has being a second generation Nepalese influence your work and life in Canada so far?
I would say the biggest thing is the drive that I have. I think having lived in Nepal, seen life there, and moving here, like I know that like society wants you to succeed. Like I know what is seen as like the good jobs, like be a doctor, be an engineer, be a lawyer, which is kind of how I started in the industry, like in engineering. And it's not to say that my parents ever told me to be a doctor, lawyer, engineer. It was kind of just the internal pressure of I saw what life was like, and I knew like the stability that would come from it. But I think moving away from that, the biggest thing that being the second generation immigrant gave me is the drive. Like I saw when we moved here, like how hard my parents had to work. Like I know what it takes. Like a job is a job. Like you need to get a job to move forward in life. Like I have been working ever since I was 14. Like I knew what I needed to do to be successful and like make them proud. Like that's always been the biggest thing. So I think having that relationship and moving forward in my career and getting that drive comes from being a second generation immigrant and seeing like what hard work is needed to succeed in this country.
So let's run a simulation here. You said you work from age of 14, right?
Yeah.
Let's say you work from age of 20,
yeah.
right? What would that change then?
I think it would change my perspective on working, but also the connections I built. Working from 14, like I've gone through a variety of different types of jobs. I worked at the city as a camp counselor. I built my connections to the city that way. I've worked in retail. Like I got my sales knowledge from working in retail as well. Like selling pants is not fun, but like selling is selling, so you learn from that. I had my software jobs. I've tutored. I've done a bunch of it. But I think if I were to start at 20, that would mean I would be starting off in university, which one is hard because I wouldn't have built my time management skills. I think that's what really, like working since I was 14 meant I worked through high school, I worked through university. But if I was starting at 20, that would be smack in the middle of like the hardest 4 years of being in university, which would make things very difficult. But I think it wouldn't have given me the perspective of certain jobs are easy, certain jobs are hard, but like a job is a job and you need to do it to move forward. But I would say the biggest thing is just the connections. Working for that many years allowed, like now when I go places, like in London, if I go here, like I'm like, oh, like I recognize you from here, I recognize you from there, which makes it easy. Like when I'm applying to jobs, I can reach out to people that I know and I'm like, hey, like, do you know anyone that's hiring in XYZ? So I think the biggest thing was just it gave me that time management, the drive, and the connections.
Oh yeah, for sure. That will work. Like I think, in case if you don't know, in Nepal, once you people usually don't work till they pass bachelor, right? But now things are changing. But that is the one pattern that I see in Nepal is like once they do a bachelor, they feel they entitled to like a manager role, right? Like I've done this and I need to go in that role and all. That actually like kill the whole experience of 5 years before the manager, right?
Yeah.
And nowadays people are more, the job is more skill oriented. It's not title in
Exactly.
certification thing, right? So that is one thing I really want to focus on for the Nepalese team as well. Like working in the education, like side by side in terms of education, educating yourself in any domain is very necessary. If it's in the same domain, that's great. Otherwise, just go to anything, right? Work is work at the end, right? That we need to understand. That's great. So म नेपालमै सोध्छु होइन कृष्णि, सो यो नेप्लिज रुट छ नि, अब तिमी यहाँ आइसक्यो होइन, देन अब यता आएर चाहिँ तिमीले नेप्लिज रुट चाहिँ कसरी त्यसमा कन्टिन्यू भइरहेछ या कसरी कनेक्टेड भइरहेको जस्तो फिल भइरहेछ तिमीलाई यहाँ आएपछि?
त्यसमा तीनटा सबभन्दा मेन चिज, एउटा भाषा, एउटा फेस्टिभल्स अनि अर्को चाहिँ खाना. घरमा हामी युजुअली नेपाली नै बोल्छौँ सबैजना, फोर्स गरेर पनि होइन, तर नेचुरली नै नेपाली आउँछ, त्यसैले सबै नेपाली बोल्छौँ. फेस्टिभल्स क्यानाडामा हुँदाखेरि सबै सानो फेस्टिभल नेपालको सेलिब्रेट गर्ने त कुरै हुँदैन, छुट्टी हुँदैन, केही हुँदैन. तर दसैँ र तिहारको बेलामा वी अलवेज मेक स्योर वी टेक टाइम अफ, त्यो सबै सेलिब्रेट गर्न, रमाइलो हुन. नेपालमा भएको जस्तै हुन्छ. दसैँ तिहारमा सबै भेट्न आउँछ, पूजा गरिन्छ, मिठो खाना खाइन्छ. अनि लास्टली मेरो फेभरेट खाना सबैभन्दा वर्ल्डमा इज मोमोज. Anywhere I go, I will eat momos any day. I could eat it for every meal, so I would say that's the biggest thing.
Yeah, nice. So obviously there is a aspect from the parent side as well, but like being a second gen, right? I can see कि एउटा त्यो अर्थ जस्तै हुन्छ क्या. You guys want to stay connected with the people, right? You want to talk with your grandparents, हुन्छ होला, extended family सँग कुरा गर्ने होला होइन. Obviously यताको लाइफ अलिक डिफ्रेन्ट छ उता भन्दा, तरै पनि त्यो केही एउटा बेसिक चाहिँ हामी गरिरहेको हुन्छौँ, त्यो चाहिँ एकदम राम्रो लाग्छ होइन. The question that I have now is that, let's say what kind of opportunity, or we have already touched upon on this point of the advantage point, right? But in your field, right, let's say, and in your field, I just realized that it's a creative field. It's not like obviously engineering also a creative field, I understand that, but it's more of a, what do you draw in a blank paper, right? It's kind of that, right? So in the creative field, I find Canada to be more courageous or like supportive, right? So let's say, how do you think of the opportunity in Canada, right, that differ from the Nepal, right? So what kind of opportunity do you see as opposed to the Nepal?
I think in that the biggest thing comes down to the support and education. I would say in Nepal, creative careers aren't really like something that's looked up to. Like I said before, everyone wants their kid to be a doctor, engineer, or a lawyer. Like if you're not going to school for science or business, like their family like had a kid who wasn't successful. Like that's kind of the mentality that it is there. But I think here, like ever since like I've been in elementary school, they've always said like don't do a career just for like making money. Like find out what you truly want to do, because then when you wake up in the morning, you're not going to just a job, you're going to do something that you enjoy. I think on top of that, I don't really think there are any specific programs that are curated to event planning in Nepal. Like there's not really schools that focus on event planning or certifications that you take. Like if you're going to be an event planner in Nepal, you're probably just planning weddings, which is a big industry in itself, that's for sure, because the weddings are bigger, there are more days, there's more like money that goes into weddings in Nepali weddings than there is in Canadian weddings, but it's pretty exclusive to weddings itself, versus here there is the programs that go into the different streams of event planning, whether you're doing music festivals or you're doing corporate or nonprofit. I think education really gives you that opportunity to test it out, to see if it's something you want to do by doing the 2 years before diving into it and deciding that it's your career. So I would say there are opportunities, but the opportunities there, I would say, are much more wedding focused, and they're more you do it yourself. You're not getting the education, you're not really getting the support, you're just doing it because you want to. Versus here, like if you tell someone like, oh, like I'm in event planning, they're interested, they're excited, and if you build that community that has the support to help you, then you're able to succeed in the industry.
Oh yeah, okay, that's a huge point, right? That's great. Okay, so I, most of the interaction that I have with the second generation are more about how the Canada, how they view about the Canada, right? Um, but they also talk about if they want, they also talk about how they are being misunderstood, right? Because people here are more expressive, I think so. Most of the people in myself are expressive, but some of them are not, right? So can you tell me about like what do you wish more people in our community or anywhere, right, understood more about second generation experience?
Yeah, I think being a second generation immigrant, you're kind of like in this middle spot of you're not Canadian enough for the Canadians, but you're not Nepali enough for the Nepalis.
Yeah.
Like, you speak Nepali, they're like, oh, like you have a funny accent, haha, they laugh at you, which like it isn't an intentional thing, but like it's just what they do, like it's just part of the culture. Or like you're not Canadian enough because you don't look like the people from Canada or whatever, or you have an accent in that regard. But I think the biggest thing is you're not trying to fit into one of the buckets. I would say what people really need to remember is like you are a second generation immigrant. There's nothing you can do to change that. Like just deal with it. Pick what you choose. Pick what you want from either of those and pick and choose and just be yourself. And just like if people don't like the way you are, that's like at the end of the day, that's their problem. Like you are who you are and you're picking what you want from both of those cultures because you have the opportunity to pick and choose from the two.
Yeah. It seems like you have already found your ikigai. You know ikigai, right? You don't know? Okay, I think I highly recommend you to read, if you read this book called Ikigai by,
Okay.
it's a Japanese book, but it's written in English. It's a very powerful tool to understand and, have some analytics of your life, right? Where I'm heading, what do I like, what can make the money if I like that. So there are intersection of many things there, but I definitely highly recommend you to do that. Let's talk about your personal fun facts. You mentioned your obsession with the pink color, right? How does that personal interest influence your work? Because it's pink and people love pink, but there are people who don't like pink as well.
I would say, well, first of all, when I created the logo for Plantastic, it is just 2 shades of pink with a little bit of blue, but like you can see pink throughout the entire website. Everything is pink, everything is flowers, everything is just pretty in that regard. But I would say when it comes to clients and working with them, obviously not everyone likes the color pink, and that's totally fine. I will do events that don't have any pink in it. Like that doesn't matter to me at all. But I would say where it really comes through is if I have a client that says, you have the creative freedom to do whatever you want, why don't you give me some options? Whenever I have the opportunity to give options, one of the options will somehow, somewhere always have pink tied into it.
Right.
Because personally for me, I know that like I will enjoy doing it the most because it looks the prettiest, and I would want like the end result to be what I enjoy looking at as well. So I'm open to doing anything else, but if I have the option, I would always want pink to be within it.
All right. Okay, that makes sense, right? So life as it is, right? Because life doesn't go in a linear path. It goes up, it goes down. What have you learned in this whole journey about failures, right? Because it's a yin and yang, right? Life is always not sunny. What have you learned in those low times, if you have any? I don't know about it, but if you have that low time and failures in life, what have you learned so far in that respect?
I would say the biggest thing when it comes to failure is just being able to pick yourself back up. For me, like ever since I was little, like I had always been someone who really liked school, who was really good at school. Like that was it. Like I wanted the high marks and that's all it was. But it wasn't really till engineering where I was faced with the challenge of like, I don't think I can do this. So I think being able to accept that like, oh, like I guess I'm not good at everything was a very hard like wall that I had to like overcome. But I think that's what made me realize that like if I can handle the failure of not being able to understand exactly what went into engineering, but still graduate in the 4 years and get the degree, that if I put my mind to it, there's not much else that I wouldn't be able to handle. That like it'll be hard and it won't be fun, but as long as I'm pushing myself and trying to get it done, that whether it be so many years of crying, like being miserable, that in the end, like it will get done if I put my mind to it.
Okay, yeah, so you have some kind of faith in yourself that, okay, even if I go down, there is a time like this, but for sure I'll go up, right? Okay, so that's positive nature is very much needed in this time as well, especially the things going on, right? So, all right, so let's talk about the future plan as well, right? So 80% of my circle who have second generation are doing a job right now, right? But you are one of the few that is actually owning a business, doing their business, right? So if, let's say, if any second generation immigrant is looking into this podcast, what would be your advice to that audience, right, to start their own business? How do we start about it?
I think the biggest thing is finding your niche. I don't think you can just start a business because you want to start a business. It takes a lot of hours, it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of energy, and if it's not something you like doing, like, the odds are you're not going to be able to succeed in that business. But I think more than that, it's having that support system. For me, like, luckily enough, it was easy. Like, my parents were super supportive, whether it be with helping set up, using the space to store all of our all of our decor items, whether it be financial support. Like, that was the biggest thing. I don't think, like, if me myself had to just like start a business out of the blue, would have been able to do it. So I think it's having that support system, having the people that have the faith in you or want to invest in you would be the biggest thing. Is you can't really do it alone, and you can't do it just because everyone is saying, oh, like, having a business is the best way to make money in this economy. Like, you need to have that drive and you need to have that support to be able to actually create a business that has like a future.
For sure. So एउटा टाइम थियो क्या नेपालमा पनि जहिले जहाँ पनि त्यही नै हुन्छ अन्टरप्रेनरलाई चाहिँ त्यो अन्टरप्रेनर बन्नुपर्छ भन्ने आइरहेको छ नि त जहिले पनि त्यो वेमा आइरहेको हुन्छ त्यो ट्रेन्डै आइरहेको हुन्छ देन एक वर्ष जान्छ एन्ड देन दे विल अन्डरस्ट्यान्ड दे विल गो इन्टु द डिप इन द वाटर नि होइन अनि त्यसपछि दे अन्डरस्ट्यान्ड ओके दिस इज फ्यान्सी होइन इट रियली टेक्स टाइम इट राति 2 बजी उठेर यदि तिमी काम गर्न सक्दैन भने अन्टरप्रेनरसिप होइन जस्तो लाग्छ कहिले काहीँ चाहिँ मलाई पनि होइन सो त्यो त छँदैछ होइन द्याट्स द डार्क साइड एज वेल बट it's rewarding. That is, it's worth it, right?
Yeah.
The effort is gonna multiply. It's not gonna say plus.
Yeah.
Right? So that's the mindset that we should have, and that's exactly why the job mentality भएको मान्छेले चाहिँ त्यो अर्को त्यो रोबोट कास्टले भन्छ नि जबबाट त्यो जुन उता बिजनेसमा जानै सक्दैन क्या बिकज दे क्यानट रिलेट के होइन के चाहिँ गर्नुपर्छ सो द्याट मैले यो पाउँछ भन्ने नि उनीहरूलाई थाहा हुँदैन नि एन्ड त्यो माइन्डसेट एकदम गाह्रो छ अनि फेरि रिभर्स इज ट्रु यताको मान्छे जब गर्न हतपट्टि जान्दैन क्या अनलेस त्यस्तै भयो भने मात्रै जान्छ बिकज दे अन्डरस्ट्यान्ड द पावर अफ दिस थिङ राइट बिजनेसको पावर बुझे हुन्छ सो इट्स जस्ट ब्यालेन्स राइट यसमा कुरा गर्नुपर्दा वान अफ द थिङ के एउटा तिमीले भनिहाल्यौ आफूले मात्र गरेर हुँदैन हाम्रो हिन्दू कल्चरमा पनि छ नि त ड्याडी ममको आशीर्वाद चाहिन्छ राइट इन सम वे राइट जस्ट फेथबाट होइन तिमीलाई जस्ट प्याट अन योर ब्याक मात्र भए पनि आई थिङ्क द्याट्स मोर देन इनफ फर यु टु गो मुभ अहेड होइन what is the other truth होइन that you have discovered about yourself going through this journey that you have never expected?
I think it goes back to kind of what I touched on before. I think it's that I can't do everything myself. I've always been someone that was like, I know that I can do it, so I don't trust anyone else to do it because I don't think they can do it as good as I could do it, which was just like, I am a perfectionist and I didn't want anyone else to do it for me. But I think in this industry, you can't do it. Like, I can't set up an entire wedding's decor by myself while also coordinating it and attending the wedding. So I think the biggest thing was finding a team that I trust, that I know is going to be able to execute what I want, and making sure that I'm clearly communicating what I want. Because I think it was knowing that in my head things made sense. Like, if I just said, oh, hang this, like, I knew how it needed to be hung. But I think it's now realizing that there's more instructions that need to be told than just hang this. Then I'm like, okay, like, use this specific thing to hang it, like, do it this way, which helps them learn so they know for the future, but also so that they're not asking me 1,800 questions while I'm already doing something else. So it helps that communication and breaks the barrier of like, now we're just mad at each other because no one knows what's happening.
Oh yeah, I understand. But research what I think so the research is about how do high performing team work, right, to achieve what they do, right? And this much one I think यदि एउटा मान्छेले हात्तीको सुट भन्ने बित्तिकै त्यो होल 5जना टिम छ भने त्यो सुटको पनि कहाँ भनेर त्यो 5जनाले इमेजिन गर्न सक्छ अरे क्या एन्ड देन यु बिकम अ हाई पर्फर्मिङ टिम रे क्या होइन सो त्यो भनेर चाहिँ फ्लो अफ इन्फर्मेसन होइन कम्युनिकेसन कि होइन सो सबै कुराहरू त्यो टिममा चाहिँ आई थिङ्क त्यो टार्गेट गर्नुपर्छ जस्तो लाग्छ होइन एन्ड इट अल डिपेन्ड्स अन द पिपल नेचर एज वेल राइट बिकज सबै कसैलाई चाहिँ म एक्लै अलोन वुफ हुन्छ नि त्यस्तो नि हुन्छ तर कोही यदि स्केल गर्नु छ भने अभियसली विनी टिम राइट एन्ड टिम नट जस्ट टिम एक्टिभली कम्युनिकेट गर्ने टिम सो द्याट इट्स मलाई चाहिँ म चाहिँ कस्तो बिलिभ गर्छु भने फिडब्याक हो क्या लाइक आई डोन्ट वान्ट पर्फेक्सन लाइक यु सेड राइट आई एम लाइक प्रोग्रेस ओभर पर्फेक्सन क्या जस्तै यो पोडकास्ट पनि कति राम्रो छैन होला होइन हुँदैन पनि होला तर के हुन्छ भनेदेखि मलाई पर्फेक्ट चाहिएको छैन क्या विथ जस्ट प्रोग्रेस अब मैले एपिसोड 1 गर्दाखेरि अर्को सर्भाइभर राइडमा इट वाज जस्ट 30 मिनट्स एन्ड आई कुड नट स्पिक आफ्टर द्याट के आई वाज लाइक ओ के भयो मलाई होइन आई वान्ट टु टक बट म सकेन अहिले म एपिसोड लाग्ने गर्दै थिएँ 2 आवर्स कुरा गर्दैछु क्या फ्लुएन्टली क्या सो it is all about feedback, how you learn it, right? So it's a growth, right? Growth मान्छे राख्नुपर्छ so त्यही कुरा गर्दा अब हाम्रो Plantastic event को what are the future goals, what are the future aspirants, where are you heading towards?
I think it's a hard question because right now I also work full-time. I work with a full-time event management company on top of Party Girls and Plantastic. And I think it's balancing the two, but I think in the future what I would want is to be the main admin person for Plantastic, Party Girls, either of the two, and get to a point where I have a strong team that can go on site and do all the setup so I don't need to be there on the day of, and in the end have a venue. I know working in the industry, I know that London has a lack of venues that meet all the requirements, whether it be the size, whether it be the space, whether it be what they offer. There's a lot of things that I know that's missing in the industry being an event coordinator myself, so I want to create a venue that addresses all of these issues, be the person that owns the venue, not necessarily be the person that's on site, because I think at the end of the day I still want to keep my 9 to 5. I like the stability of that, but I think I want to be able to balance the two where I'm on site on the weekends at this venue or on the evenings, but I have a team that I can fully trust and that will support me to run this venue while I'm still working the 9 to 5 and growing in that regard, but where Plantastic and Party Girls has an official venue itself to work out of.
Yeah. So as a business owner, I like things to like the ground ma gएर हेर्ने के फर एक्जाम्पल मलाई रेस्टुरेन्टहरु मन पर्छ म रेस्टुरेन्टमा जान्छु कुनै पनि रेस्टुरेन्ट जान्छु आई विल सी द अरेन्जमेन्ट फर्स्ट है कति कसरी राखेको छ त्यो अप्टिमाइज वे हो कि हैन फर्स्ट अफ अल हैन अनि कतिजना अट्छ यदि फुल साइज रन हुने हो भने कतिजना अटेर कतिजना स्टाफ चाहिन्छ होला भित्र किचनमा के हुन्छ ब्याकएन्डमा के हुन्छ आई लाइक टु थिङ्क इन द्याट वे क्या ओके फुल साइजमा भयो भने यसको मन्थली कति होला त एआर होइन त्यो की रेसियोहरू हेर्छु क्या यसको रेन्ट कति होला यसले कति मिनिमम गर्नुपर्छ होला फ्राइडे स्याटरडे मात्र रन आउनु मान्छे आयो भने अरू बेला कस्तो हुन्छ होला त्यो म लाइक आई वुड लाइक टु डु थिङ्स इन माई वे क्या होइन सो त्यो म गरिरहेको हुन्छु अनि कति कुरा चाहिँ मलाई कस्तो लाग्छ भने लेट्स चाहिँ डिजे नाइट भइरहेछ अनि त्यो डिजेले गरिरहेको छ म त्यहाँ पनि आफ्नो दिमाग लाउँदा क्या अब आम ओभर थिङ्कर बाइ द वे होइन अनि आई थिङ्क ओके यो डिजेले यो गीत बजाइरहेछ देन नेक्स्ट के बजाउँछ होला अडियन्सले के चाहिरहेको छ त्यहाँबाट होइन त्यस्तो कुराहरू म गरेर हुन्छु सो तिमी पनि एज अ इभेन्ट म्यानेजर भयो तिमीले पनि यस्तो हुन्छ कि हुँदैन सोध्नु खोजेको होइन सो यु गो इन टु द इभेन्ट होइन यसो हेर अब दिस इज ब्रुटल मिस्टेक हो त एकदम होइन ब्लन्डर हो भन्ने फिल कुनै इभेन्टमा त्यस्तो प्र्याक्टिकल सेन्समा के भएको थियो एन्ड देन हाउ त्यसपछि कसरी सल्भ गर्थ्यो र इफ यु आर इभेन्ट कोअर्डिनेटर भनौँ न त्यस्तो केही इन्स्टेन्सेसहरू छ तिम्रो
I'm also a very big overthinker and also a very I like to, in the nicest way, like look at things and pick them apart.
Constructive feedback, right?
Constructive criticism. There have been venues where I've gone to where I think they're running it terribly. I like, for example, if there's a venue that's like not paying their staff properly, for example, if they're cutting costs on how much they're paying their staff, how much they're tipping their staff, like that's an easy tell that they're not going to have staff that stay on. Like obviously the staff aren't going to work there, they're going to go somewhere else that they're getting paid better. If there's a venue that's cutting down on cost and only using plastic utensils, I think that's a big thing. Like for us, the biggest thing is we like to be budget friendly to the clients, but the biggest thing is not compromising on quality, because I think anyone can just order like random flowers from Temu that look bad, but I think having the real like better quality silk flowers is what sets up our flower walls or centerpieces like apart from what anyone else can really do. So I think I am also a very picky person. So I go to events and I'm like, oh, this could have been run better. Like if there was a wedding coordinator, they would have made sure that the bride walked down the aisle on time versus like we had to wait 30 minutes because someone forgot their shoe or something like that. So I think like especially being in the industry, it's given me even more of a lens to when I go to events as a guest. I look at it in a very critical way because I'm not, like, yes, I'm there to just enjoy it, but I think I know like what is going wrong and what could be done better and then that helps me for the future if I'm planning a similar event.
Exactly.
I know to not do, oh, like I went to this event and I know I don't want my event to ever be like that.
Exactly. The critical thinking चाहिन्छ पनि अनि बिजनेस ओनर भएपछि ग्याप पनि फाइन्ड गर्नुपर्छ क्या राइट त्यो तिमीले गर्न सक्यो भने one more feedback तिमीले त्यो गर्यौ नि त क्लोज गर्यौ नि त हैन सो एक्ज्याक्टली so I have a rapid fire round now है म क्वेशन सोध्छु एउटा दुईटा वर्डमा तिमी आन्सर दिनुपर्छ है त सो फेभरेट इभेन्ट थिम
Usually something new that I've never done, but right now Amalfi Coast. I just did an Amalfi Coast event. It's like, it's based on the coast in Italy. It's a lot of blues and yellows and whites and a lot of lemons. So I would say right now it would just be that. I love the way it ties together.
Okay, some more vibes. Okay, that makes sense. One thing you would never compromise on?
Quality. I think you can always try and be effective with your budget, but like if your products are bad, like no matter what you do, they're gonna look bad.
All right, so quality over quantity. That's great. All right, most underrated event planning skill.
I would say passion. I think it's so easy to burn out in the industry. You have days where you're working for 18 hours straight. You have weekends where you have 4 events in a row. So if you don't have the passion to be in event planning, you'll probably do it for a few months and hate it, and you're never going to get anywhere in the industry.
Okay, so dream client or event?
I think in the cheesiest way, it would be my own wedding. I think I've done so many weddings that I know what I want and I know what I don't want, but I think the general idea of what I want for my wedding is that for anyone that's attending and anyone that knows me, that it's the best wedding they've ever seen and the best wedding they've ever been to.
Okay, I have a follow-up question on that. Let's say you get to the point where you're getting married now, tomorrow or like a month after, right? Why would you not hire Prishni as the event coordinator that
time? Because I would want to enjoy my own wedding.
No, as a like.
Oh, as someone else
to do it there, like a vendor to do it.
I think because I'm a perfectionist, I wouldn't trust anyone else to bring my vision to life. I think what I would do is I would hire someone else to be there on the day of to just watch the flow of things. But even that, it would be someone that I've worked with.
Okay.
But aside from that, I would do the entire planning leading up to, I would create all the like 50 pages of documents of what they needed to follow. And I would plan out all the decor and everything where someone just had to set it up, because aside from that, I wouldn't trust anyone else to make sure that my vision was coming to life.
But one thing, right? So you entrepreneur, एउटा issue के हुन्छ like non-duality भन्छ क्या, because you have already done so much, हैन, you don't want to delegate क्या, because you understand that कि उसले गर्न सक्दैन मैले जति, हैन, but to scale a company you need to delegate, right?
I would delegate for anyone else's wedding. I just wouldn't delegate for my own.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. It's perfect.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyone else's wedding can be delegated, but for mine it has to be me.
Okay, got it. Last question in the rapid fire round. Dad मन पर्छ कि mom धेरै मन पर्छ कि buy मन पर्छ? Who would you choose among 3? Just one.
For the ease of this answer, I would say buy, because I can't pick between mom and dad. That's a hard pick. So just like the correct answer might not be Abu, but I would pick Abu so that I didn't have to pick between mommy and daddy.
Okay, little diplomatic. Okay. All right. I see you do a lot of visualization and manifestation, right? Do you do such kind of thing, like, or I know you're a go-getter, right? So
Yeah.
go-getter doesn't visualize and per se visualize a thing, but I think there's some aspect or faith in visualizing a thing way ahead. Like let's say, I think you are planning your wedding subconsciously in your mind, right? Like okay, so I learn all these things and I want to get this perfect for your wedding. So do you do visualization and manifestation technique or something like that?
Not really. I would say I am a more positive person than like.
No, I'm saying the positive mindset only, like त्यो अर्को वेमा होइन हुन्छ नि जस्तै 5 वर्षपछि चाहिँ मेबी प्रिस्टिनले चाहिँ मैले यस्तो देखिरहेको हुन्छु भनेर त्यो जस्ट त्यो सबकन्सियसली भिजुअलाइज गर्ने क्या लाइक गर्छु नै भन्ने होइन हुन्छ नि माइन्डमा एउटा आइरहेको हुन्छ नि त ओभर थिङ्कर भएकोले लाइक आई जस्ट वान्ट टु कनेक्ट द डट्स के
Not really. I think growing up, mommy always said, like, cross the bridge when you get there. So I'm a very, like, I'll deal with it when it comes up. Like, if it's not gonna bother me right now, like, I don't care. Like, I'm more focused on what I'm doing in this moment. Yeah.
Okay, live the present. Got it. Okay, momले chicken manage गर्नु हुँदो रहेछ.
Yeah.
This is very good. एकदम I think mom dad को चाहिँ कस्तो लाग्छ हैन तिमीले त्यो चुज गर्न सक्दैनौ भने नि I understand किन हैन त्यस्तो क्यानाडामा चाहिँ आई थिङ्क सेकेन्ड जेन भएर तिमीले यति सोच्नु पनि धेरै राम्रो जस्तो लाग्छ एट द एन्ड अफ द डे एकदम पोजिटिभ नोट नभनिरहेको मैले खास यो अब म चाहिँ के वरिड छ भने सो आई हेभ अ लास्ट क्वेसन फर यु एज वेल होइन म चाहिँ के छ भने मेरो भर्खर बच्चा जन्म्यो राइट सी जस्ट 70 days old होइन obviously I would like her to be more confident like you, right? Clear in communication, all thing, But she has her own journey, I can't force her to do, anything, right? Like, was he got a swimmer, no worries. We have no restriction as parents, right? So if you were to go back and talk to 10 years old or Prishni, right? That is the time when you came into a new country. It was a new thing. Parents were really supportive. I understand, but तिम्रो पनि एउटा पर्सपेक्टिभमा बने हुन्छ नि त नेपालमा कस्तो भएर आउँछ तिमी यहाँ आउने बित्तिकै तिमीले साथी नयाँ भेट्यौ होला दे माइट हेभ डिफ्रेन्ट ओपिनियन अबाउट यु राइट हामीले कुरा गरिसक्यो सो वाट वुड यु टेल द्याट पर्सन हु इज कमिङ एज लाइक त्यो एकदम त्यो न्यू त्यो फर्स्ट इयर क्यानाडा हुँदाखेरि के भन्छ होला
I think what people would think that I would say is I would go back to 10-year-old me and tell her to not do software engineering, to just go into events and not waste the 4 years. But actually, that's not what I would ever say. I'm a big believer in everything happens for a reason. It's what I was always told growing up. I have a tattoo saying everything happens for a reason. So I think, honestly, what I would tell 10-year-old me is to just keep working hard and keep doing what you're doing. Because at the end, like, all the things that lead to the events lead to where we are right now. Like, do all the jobs that you did, work as hard as you did, do the 4 years of software engineering, like suffer because that made you who you are and made you a hard worker, so that in the end you can get to a point where you can look back and say, the things that I did have made me who I am now and have put me in a place where I'm happy doing what I'm doing.
So the positive outlook, Songai, I think it will make sense when things comes, right? You cannot always connect the dots, actually, right?
Yeah, sometimes you just have to believe that it happens for a reason, and you find out 8 years later what the reason was. But I think eventually there's always a reason, and if you don't know it now, you just have to believe that there is a reason for what's happening.
All right, with that positive note, we're going to end this session. How was your experience? Any last thought before we wrap up?
No, it was great. It was great chatting with you.
All right, thank you. We'll do namaste.
Namaste.
Thank you. Oh, we're done.